Hello everyone, my name is Lindsay. I'm the lead academic advisor for Knights of Distinction. Today we're going to go through the last ePortfolio workshop, so series session 4. This is on publishing your ePortfolio. Kara couldn't be here today, so I will be narrating this workshop session for you guys. Before we dive into this, please note that there are a few PDFs available for you guys to open as we're going through the presentation here. The first one is going to be an ePortfolio checklist, which you can find in the links below. And then we'll also have the guided peer review worksheet on the homepage, CV and resume, and areas of focus to help get you guys thinking about revisions you might need to make to those aspects of your ePortfolio before you publish. Okay. So before you publish your ePortfolio, these are just a couple of things that you'll want to think about. So your homepage, About Me page, 3 areas of focus with your adaptive milestone reflections, and then your CV and or resume are all required components of the ePortfolio. You can find more information about these components in the Reflections capstone located in the Knights of Distinction web course. That's the last module on the homepage of the web course. And again, that module has specific instructions for the content you should be including there, some tips and tricks, all of that kind of stuff. You can read more about that there. As far as contact information goes, you're going to want to think a little bit about how much contact information and what kind of information you're going to want to include in your ePortfolio. Something I want to note right away is that you don't need to include any contact information if you don't want to. That's something that's going to be completely up to you. If you do decide to include contact information, students that usually opt to do that will have some kind of contact me page. So if you're using Wix or Adobe Spark, a lot of the templates that you can choose from will have a contact me page option. You can connect that to an email address. The email address that you connected to doesn't have to display. So people that are viewing it aren't necessarily going to have access to your personal email. They can send an email through the Contact Me page, and Wix or Adobe Spark, whatever you're using, will send a notification to your email telling you that you have a new email and to check that. So other students will decide that they don't mind sharing an email, so they might include that on their contact page, or they might include that on their CV or resume that's located in the ePortfolio. Other students will decide to include their phone number. Again, not required. That is something that's completely up to you. Just keep in mind that once you publish your ePortfolio, it's available to the public, so anyone can potentially see that information. We tend to recommend that you don't include your phone number. It's not really necessary. If you're applying for a graduate school or a job, then that information you would include in the application package anyway, so you don't need to really include that in your ePortfolio. Okay, so before you publish, again, you're going to want to double check your artifacts. If you are including photos, videos, any other artifacts that might include images or videos with other people in them, you're going to want to check to make sure that you're not including any vulnerable populations and that you're giving the appropriate credit if someone else took the picture. So as far as that goes, you can check the ePortfolio guide that we created with the library. Once you're ready to publish, just read through that. It's got a lot of great information introducing concepts of copyright, fair use, additional copyright resources, ethically using information created by other people, selecting artifacts, all kinds of useful tips and tricks to consider. So be sure to check that out. You're generally, if you are including a lot of pictures with maybe kids, if you work with a volunteer organization, something like that, you're going to want to definitely check to make sure that you have permission to use those photos in your portfolio. Okay, so we have the ePortfolio checklist. This version of this checklist will be located in the discussion below in the files, you can go ahead and open that up. Okay, so as you'll see, this checklist is broken down by a couple of different categories. So we've got communication, reflection, technology, and then design. This is a very straightforward, simple way to make sure that you've done all of the required kind of checks and revisions before you publish your ePortfolio, before you make it available to the public. So when you've done everything, you've gotten our feedback, you've implemented the content revisions, that's when you would utilize this tool, this checklist. So it helps you make sure that you've got all your content, all the required components of the portfolio, that you have appropriate descriptions of artifacts for your audience, you've included appropriate artifacts for your audience, that you've done a read through of your content to make sure it's grammatically correct, maybe error free, and then things like checking your fonts, your colors to make sure that they're visually appealing, that you're checking your hyperlinks, any kind of videos or things like that on your ePortfolio to make sure that they work and that they link to the appropriate sources or websites. After you publish your ePortfolio, we've got a couple of things for you to consider once you get to that point. So the first thing is employing the use of social media. Something to think about here is to what extent you want to use social media. So do you want to maybe include a icon with, that links to your Facebook, your Twitter page, your LinkedIn profile perhaps on your ePortfolio? As you guys will notice, a lot of the Wix and Adobe Spark templates will come with the social media icons linked at the bottom of the ePortfolio or in some component of it, one of the pages in the template. You will either want to go ahead and connect those to your social media accounts if that's something you want to do. Definitely think carefully about that. If you decide not to do that, which most students opt not to connect their personal social media to their portfolios, go ahead and delete those icons. Or the way they function in the templates is that if you click on them, they'll take you right to the Wix Facebook page or the Wix Twitter page, which it's not doing anything for your audience, right? So if that's the case, you're not going to utilize those, and go ahead and just delete them from your ePortfolio. You should decide whether or not you want to include a link to your ePortfolio on your CV or resume. We see a lot of students might opt to do that. Some students will opt to include a link to their portfolio on their LinkedIn page. Again, that's completely up to you. Think about whether or not that's useful for your audience, if that's something that you're comfortable with, just things to consider. And again, none of this is necessarily required. They're just things to consider after you go ahead and publish your ePortfolio. The third point here is to think about how you would talk about your portfolio to an outside audience. So if this comes up in a job interview, where they might be asking if you have a personal website or something that where they can see more of your work, you wouldn't want to talk about it in context with Knights of Distinction. So yes, you created it, for this program, but the idea is that it's outward facing, and you would want to talk about it in terms of the skills that it's highlighting, the projects and information that you're including to help you get into that graduate program or get into or get the job that you're going for. So again, just think a little bit about the context in which you would talk about this portfolio. All right, for the final portion here, we've got a peer review worksheet for you. This is focused on the home page, your CV or resume, and then the About Me page, which were the last components we were asking you to focus on for this session. So although this was done as a guided peer review in the original iteration of ePortfolio workshop, the face-to-face version. You can do this on your own. It functions in the same way, so you can answer these questions in relation to your own ePortfolio, and it will help you make sure that you're directing it in the right way and that you're including the information that is most beneficial to you. So this worksheet is available down below. If you want to open that up, you can read through it. I'm including it as a Word document so you can type right into it, or you can print it out and fill it out if you find that useful. Okay, and then finally, if you're graduating this semester, make sure you check the emails that I've sent out with the due dates for the ePortfolio, that you're turning that in by the appropriate date. If you're not graduating this semester and you're just getting an early start on your portfolio, that's great, and feel free to submit the link via the web course. Even if it's not done yet, Kara and I are happy to take a look at it to make sure, to give you some feedback and make sure it's meeting any requirements. If you have any questions, you can include those in the comments and we'll make sure to address those. If you are graduating this semester, when you're ready to submit your portfolio, again, go ahead and submit it via the ePortfolio assignment in the web course, and Kara and I will get some feedback to you as soon as we can. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the ePortfolio workshop series.